Before you proceed with these last two examples, I would like you to pause the video and try them. You might get stuck on one of them or maybe both, but at least give them both a try. All right, now that we've tried both of these out, we need to figure out what quadrant our angle lies in. And we're going to get that information from here and from here. Okay. So tangent of theta is negative in what quadrants? Well, maybe I'll just put my signs up here real quick. This might help us out a little bit. There we go. So tangent is going to be negative in any quadrant that's not both positive or both negative. So it's going to be here in quadrants 2 or 4. So I'm just going to write that here. We know we have to be in 2 or 4 for that to happen. Let's think about this other piece here now. Sine of theta is greater than 0. Well, this happens in quadrants, right? We're looking for a y value greater than 0, so that's in quadrants 1 or 2. And now we need both of these conditions to be satisfied, and so the only quadrant that satisfies both of these is quadrant 2. Okay, so I'm going to erase this and we'll sketch our angle in quadrant 2. And again, as long as I draw my angle in the correct quadrant, everything should work out. We know that if we were to sketch a triangle here, right, don't forget this is technically theta, and this in here would be theta prime, right, our reference angle. And then let's write in the side lengths. So tangent, right, is, let me write that using maybe a different color here. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, TOA, right? So what that tells me is that the opposite side is going to be length 3. Okay, and it also tells me that the adjacent side is going to be length 5. Okay, and so the only thing we're missing right now on this triangle is the hypotenuse. Let's go ahead and find it. So if we're trying to find that hypotenuse, let's maybe call it h. So we have h squared is equal to 3 squared plus 5 squared. So what, that's 25 plus 9, so it's going to give us 34. So we get h is equal to the square root of 34. So now we have everything we need here. Let's begin with, since we have tangent, why don't we do the easy one first? We'll do cotangent of theta. Should just be the reciprocal. So it's going to be minus 5/3. Next, let's do, how about sine of theta? So sine of theta should be opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be 3 over the square root of 34. Okay. And in that quadrant 2, sine is positive, so I can leave it like this, other than maybe I'll rationalize the denominator. All right, another easy one we can get since we have sine is, how about cosecant? It's reciprocal function. And I'm actually going to use this version here, because if I use this one, I'm going to have to rationalize the denominator again. So how about we just use this one? That gives us the square root of 34 over 3. And then we only have 2 left. We have cosine and secant left. So cosine of theta in quadrant 2 is actually negative. So I'm going to make sure and put my negative there right now. And then the adjacent side is length 5, and the hypotenuse is the square root of 34. And again, rationalizing this gives us minus 5 square root of 34 over 34. And then our very last one, secant. Okay, and so secant theta should just be the reciprocal. And again, I'm going to take the first representation of cosine theta here. So I'm going to have minus the square root of 34 over 5. And I chose the first one again so that I would not have to repeat rationalizing the denominator. Let's go ahead and move down and try one more. This time we just need to find sine of theta, but we've been given a point that the terminal side goes through. It goes through minus 7 comma 24. Well, if the x value is negative and the y value is positive, that's in quadrant 2, right? And let's just sketch this in here. Okay, and again, it's supposed to go through a certain point. It's supposed to go through minus 7 comma 24. And I'm actually not going to write that point there where I just put the dot, because I'm actually more concerned with that point telling me the side lengths of this triangle than I am the actual point itself. Okay, so the y value is 24, so we have a height of 24 here. The x value is minus 7, so this has a length of 7. Okay. And then, of course, this would be theta, and in here would be theta prime, our reference angle. So if we were to find sine of theta, we're in the second quadrant, so we know it'll be positive. And then sine of theta is supposed to be opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be 24 over some number that we need to find here now. So if we're trying to find that hypotenuse, it looks like we have h squared is equal to 7 squared plus 24 squared. And if we add those two together, that gives us 625. So let me scoot this down a little bit. H squared equals 625. And the square root of 625 is actually just 25. So the hypotenuse is of length 25. And so we can finish this off here. Sine of theta is equal to 24 over 25.